Next we have the wordsmith, Stephanie.AVI. Her favorite word is devilment.
My favorite word is indeed.
Huh?
Indeed.
Indeed.
I don't know what that guy said, because no, I'm serious. I'm just, well, we can get into a whole big conversation about that. Anyway, this is one, I'm just going to do one piece, and it's still work in progress. It's called The Star and the Comet. And just a quick backdrop. This poem was kind of born out of the conversation I had with Ian a couple months ago. It was another poet named Mel Gray. And we got in a big conversation about Michael Jackson. And, we talked about like Jackson, and I'm watching everything clad on TV, and I'm watching Jermaine and his hair, all over the place, and just being like the face ever since he died, and ever since his death, I kind of been getting like the biographies out the library, kind of pouring over them, and I know that many people have probably written things like I know all I have to call about Michael, so this is mine. Like a fear straight out of Shakespeare. Who knows but the Neverland walls, how many steps, syncopated to the beat of insomnia when he couldn't sleep. They'll never tell, even though confusion makes them want to scream, they stay silent as their master faded away. A strategy borrowed from the pages of a Greek tragedy. Who knows but the bungalow walls in the steel mill town, where sounds and flesh bounced off corners and crashed into each other from sweet harmonies and fearful screams. Who can predict the inner workings of the universe when it forms a star and asks it to be big brother to a comet, and leaves him to burn in the Milky Way when the comet shoots off into the stratosphere? And there's nothing left but to burn brighter until he started to break up upon re-entry. I'm sorry. I'm going to listen about it. The comet walked on legs like a scarecrow, just falling off a pole, and he shuffled, stumbled, until he could moonwalk. And when he spun out of nothingness, heavenly bodies scattered themselves like dust. While the star tried to learn how to shoot and fly as fast, everything that burned inside of the comet started to show in cuts and stitches. The star should have known it's not enough to just rise. You never notice a twinkle when you still see the tail end of speed shooting by. A comet thought just speeding forward was enough, but he should have looked back to see twinkles of green. The comet never knew what love was or why hate had a place in the world or why it would believe sooner or later. The comet sang a comet of 1 and 7 sevens with the gift from 7 heaven, riding at the speed that could be the 8th wonder of the world, but all he wanted was a world that was one. The comet never knew what love was or why hate had a place in the world and why it would believe sooner than later. Everything that burned inside of this comet showed up in cuts on his face, and the only ugly thing about him was his insecurity, because a child that lived with ridicule learned to be ashamed of his face. The man saw himself in the mirror and decided to give the rest of the world a mask. He showed a mask to many joyfully tearful faces, but his tears never dried on the plastic. The star had his time when he shone and faded. And even though he tried, he couldn't peel off the technicolor coat, even when it faded, and it still wouldn't fit. Sorry about that. It's all out of order. So The star morphed himself into a wagon, cutting himself loose from the constellation. As he pushed, ground, and plucked, he traveled far. But compared to his little brother's speed, he was only a coast. And when you see the little brother from afar, he looks so bright, and some mistook him for the sun. All that speed comes from rage, and he tells the world he ain't no sunshine. He's just a reconstructed, abducted, lonely superstar. What astronomers never told you is that even stars can give off shade. It's no wonder the little girl says to the world, leave me alone. And the Milky Way was so mistakenly thought itself the universe, gave the usual punishment for heavenly bodies not like them, made them so celestial, pumping black smoke to appear as a dark cloud. And when the comet started to break up, the world wouldn't stop, because he satisfied the worst part of the Milky Way's power, and it never got enough. And the star came from the center like the rhythm of blues Claudius morphed into a shiny new wagon to say he was the one who always stood with him. Sorry about that. And stars can't see through their own ball of gas, but the comet is breaking up. All he can do is try on his coat, but the hand-me-down didn't fit the same way. Sorry, that's all I got.
Okay.